Hello everybody, and welcome today to our Dementia Carers Count lunch and listen session. Well done everybody for getting here in the hot weather if you've managed to. Just to introduce myself, my name's Kate Legg, and I'm one of the practitioners working for Dementia Carers Count. I'm an occupational therapist and I am based in Hampshire. I'm joined today by my colleague Andrew. Andrew, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Kate. So yeah, I'm Andrew Embling. I'm an associate practitioner with Dementia Carers Count, and I'm a wellbeing coach. I'm based in an area called the Forest of Dean in Gloucestershire, and I'm a carer also.
Lovely. Well, lovely to have you with us today, Andrew. Thank you. Our topic today is carer wellbeing, and we wanted to take this opportunity. Andrew's going to share some hints and tips and ideas and different things you can do for carer wellbeing. So we're going to have a little bit of a discussion about that, but we'd really love to hear from you about the things you might do to enhance your wellbeing. So if you're able to make a comment in the comments box, that would be great. Let us know what you do. If you've got any particular questions as well, put those into the comments box and we'll try and answer those. If we can't answer all of the questions during the session, then we will endeavour to follow them up afterwards. So feel free to put the question in if you can. And we definitely want to hear from you if there are things that you do or that you've done that really boost your well-being, so that we can share with others. So it'd be great to hear from you. But just while we're waiting for people to flood us with their questions, I'll get started, Andrew, and just ask you generally why it's important for carers to look after their own well-being.
Well, that's a big question. We've been going for 30 minutes on that one alone, and basically we come back to the basic principle: the better our well-being is as a carer, then the better carer we are, the more our well-being is related to is being correlated to our resilience. As being a human being, we are emotional. And just depending upon our well-being, our resilience is depending on how those emotions influence us. And I think we always want to be aware of emotions, and it's just the challenges can come in when the emotions are, for want of a word, in control, rather than us being aware of them and then making choices. So well-being, I think, and resilience directly correlated, but so the better we are, the more resilient we are.
Brilliant, thank you. So we're going to spend a bit of time thinking about some different ways we can enhance our well-being. So I don't know if you want to. We're going to start, Andrew, we're talking about some breathing.
Yeah, I think one of the things we, if anybody has joined us on other events, we talk about breath and how important it is, because it brings oxygen into the body, oxygenates our kind of thinking brain. And there's several, simply some deep breaths can do that. But I will share with you maybe just a couple of structured methods of doing that. And in basic principles, if we breathe out for twice as long as we breathe in, then we will automatically slow our heart rate down. And that's just going to create that calming effect. So if we can catch ourselves and we're feeling maybe some overwhelm coming in or some kind of emotion, then if we can just pause and take some deep breaths. So I like to think of it in two ways of doing this. So I say breathe in for a count of 2 and breathe out for a count of 4. And those counts are your counts. I'm not going to say for any specific time duration, because we're all very much individuals. Another way to think about it is, there are several different breathing methods, but another way is to maybe do some box breathing, in as much as if we visualize a rectangle, then we can breathe in for, say, up, and breathe out for going across, and breathing in, coming down. So that kind of is a structured way of influencing our breath. So we're breathing out for maybe twice as long or for longer than we breathe in. Some of the resources we have available in the Virtual Carer Centre, there's me chatting away about a process called Ha breathing. which the only addition to anything that I've shared already is that when we breathe out, we can, I say we vocalize, we kind of literally make an audible sound. So for example, I'll just give an example of breathing in and breathing out. Depending where you are, you can make it louder than that. The intention here is, and there's a lot of thought around this, that we're perhaps stimulating some nerves around the throat or vocal cords, which can again help stimulate and bring us back to that rest and digest state. So I think that's the kind of breathing.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing to think about with breathing also is to make use of our anatomy. And I know we talk about this in some of our courses, that our lungs are bowel shaped. So the biggest capacity of our lungs is at the base. And so how we can utilize that is that when we breathe in, that we extend our tummy. We tummy breathe. We diaphragmic. We breathe from our diaphragm. So when we breathe in, it's our tummy extending, and when we breathe back out, the tummy is coming in, and that way we're using the full capacity of our lungs as best we can.
Brilliant, thank you, Andrew. That's some great tips about breathing. I know I've certainly used some of those. I've definitely used the square breathing or the rectangle breathing before exams, actually, when I was doing exams, and some of the other techniques. So yeah, as Andrew says, have a look online, because we've got more detail about those techniques online. Now, I know, Andrew, one of the other things that you're really interested in is nature and getting out and about into the forest. So are you able to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so as you say, that Kate, one of my passions is Shirin-yoku, forest bathing, and all kind of the principles that go with that. But hey, the headline is, we know what it feels like when we go outside. It simply feels better. And there is a lot of science behind it today that we know why that is. But excuse me, if you can, go outside and spend some time in nature, whether that's walking or sitting or just observing. There are just so many components that the trees and the plants share with us as they breathe, or they defend themselves, actually create a beneficial effect within us. And the same reason that even if you're not outside walking, but gardening, just being outside with your hands in the soil, we know that the scientific reasons behind that now to how that benefits and influences our mood. So from being outside, it boosts our well-being. Walking in nature, being in nature, observing nature. And there are studies, and lots of studies have been done now, that show how after spending, let's say, a cumulative 20 minutes, maybe up to 2 hours through cumulative events, that the measurable benefits from blood results are still found from boosting immune system specifically 30 days after from blood results. So I'm a great advocate in being outside in nature, and observing nature has so many mood boosting influences and effects, and it can engage us in all our available senses too.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about senses, actually, and about how, if you are out and about, or if in anything that you're doing, that you kind of use your senses to kind of almost like enhance the experience or be part of it more. Can you expand on that anymore?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got a big smile here. If anybody knows who joins us on online sessions, I talk a lot about rabbits. I'll share about that in a minute, maybe. But being outside and engaging our senses. So yeah, our sense of what we see, we're very visual humans. Humans are very visual, and if we have our vision, then in kind of a structured walk, then we will invite people to maybe pause and to lean against a tree, to then maybe kind of look up at the canopy, to look at the shapes, the patterns, and if you've got a small breeze, it's watching that canopy swaying, and it can be very mesmeric. which is in itself just very relaxing. And there's a lot of discussion around why this is. There's a lovely word called biophilia, which basically relates to the fact that as humans, in our existence, we've spent a huge expanse of time in nature in only a very short period of time in what we call, I guess, the modern world, in civilization. So innately within us, then we just know and feel comfortable in nature. And these patterns that we see naturally through the canopy, the leaves, the reflections, just are comfortable to us. And this is where I guess there's this huge overlap with mindfulness, because we're so comfortable looking at these patterns, looking at the color green, it's not something we have to think about, and we don't have to focus on it. We can just be with it and just stare at it and relax into this. So yeah, so visualization of the canopy, looking at observing the patterns, especially right now, if anybody's lucky enough to be around beach, you get that kind of amazing iridescent green, and where the leaves overlap themselves, you get shadows and patterns. Again, staring at clouds, we can always find something in cloud patterns, which is just an amazing thing to play with. And especially if we can have a conversation about it. What do I see? Well, what do you see?
Yeah.
A vision, yeah, what you see in the distance, what you see up close, because that's something we can neglect sometimes. We look for the big, grand things. But in fact, if we get up close, it's noticing the lichen, noticing the texture of bark, the patterns within bark. So yeah,
I was just thinking about what you said about the mindfulness and they're really taking it in, because I think sometimes when we're really busy or there's lots on our mind, we maybe are like walking through the forest, or like even if like I took the dog for a walk, but I'm thinking about other things, or distracted by, I might have music on, or so it's about taking that time, isn't it, to actually think, no, I'm here now in the woods or wherever green space I've managed to find. Let's focus on what's happening here and try not to think about all the other things.
Yeah, there's an amazing practice within which kind of gives some structure to that when we go into a woodland or we go somewhere, that we talk about, let's find a threshold that we're crossing over. So we're going to leave behind our man-made world, and we're going to step cross a threshold, whether that's a gate, whether it's two trees, whether it's a gap in a hedge. Just, this is my point, that I'm just going to let go of what I believe I know, and I'm going to enter into another lovely word, a liminal space, a space between. So it's as if starting out with childlike curiosity, look upon these things as if you've never seen them before, and in that way we can just start playing. And as adults, it's one of those things we forget how to play sometimes. So it's an invitation when we're in nature, and as you quite rightly say there, Kate, it's and there's a great illustration when we talk about mindful or mindful.
Yeah.
Are we being mindful and seeing what is actually in and around us right now, or is our mind full of what's happening in our day or what we're thinking of doing when we come back home? So yeah, I think when we cross that threshold, let's pause and take a few deep breaths and arrive where you are, and then just have an adventure with your available senses.
Brilliant. I was just thinking, Andrew, for people that are not able to get out, so if we've got some carers watching, or people maybe who are not able to get out of the house or spend a lot, or maybe you're in bed, or at home, is there any way that people might be able to bring nature to them, or any advice you have about how to kind of have a similar experience at home?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, there's a lot of studies to back this up. That well, let's start with I say the obvious. There's nothing obvious unless we talk about it. Bring in pot plants, in any form of plants, and we've got some amazing hardy plants out there in the world. Peace lilies, which are known to have health benefits. So having some green foliage in around us in our environment is absolutely beneficial and mood boosting for sure, and helps us create routines in as much as having to care for them as well. And also let's you know, the human brain is amazing in as much as real or imagined. You know, we can have benefits. So even if we're watching documentaries on nature and wildlife, we get a sense of awe and wonder, which is, I guess, one of those senses that, you know, we may not measure, but we feel it. So we can, if that in of itself, you know, that's that mood booster. And we talk about, you know, the best medicine is laughter, or so is joy. So if we find something that we're watching or reading, which is illustrated or kind of showing a film of nature or green space, that we can relate to or connect with, then that in of itself is going to give us those measurable benefits. So yeah, so we, again, on the virtual carers center, I think, or it may even be, I think it's on the virtual carers center, we have a short walk available to watch, a video where I was, I think it's only 5 minutes, this one, but you can watch, and the best way I can relate this is if you, when you're kind of watching roller coaster rides and you kind of, the stomach lifts, well, you can imagine yourself there. So we've done this with a walk. So you can imagine yourself there and hopefully feel those benefits where I was walking outside, and you can perhaps experience that too.
Just thinking about carer wellbeing again, generally about, do you have any advice for carers about things they could do in terms of getting more support or sharing with each other?
So there are, so kind of, I don't know if this is going to answer your question. So in different areas, you will find carers groups that do walks together.
All right, okay.
So that creates that sense of community and commonality, that people can have conversations and relate to each other's experiences, but again, out in nature, which is that kind of little bit of a magic formula that helps things. It just helps.
I was thinking about the carers benefiting from sharing with each other, and, you know, in terms of their well-being, of being able to offload with each other or share experiences, the benefits of that, and talking, basically.
Yeah, oh my word, absolutely. I think in all the work that I do, and I say this time and time and time again, conversation and sharing experiences is one of the most powerful things. I think because sometimes when we're on our own and we're maybe being a carer, then we have to contain our experience to try and to do the best we can, and sometimes we are also chastising ourselves because of how we're judging ourselves. So communication, vocalizing, having a conversation, and being honest, and being about how, because some of the emotions that I know that I experience as a carer, they're experiences that you can easily judge. I can judge myself for feeling. I can feel anger. I can feel guilt. It's all of these emotions I can feel in a given incident. And the power in all that we're saying here is, what we want to try and do is create space between that awareness, so that we can then make choices. This, like, okay, I recognize what I'm feeling. It's like, and I'm about to kind of chastise myself and feel guilty for this. And then, do you know what? I'm not on my own here. I know, or I imagine others are doing the same, and I'm only being human. So kind of acknowledge it. And then we have an opportunity to kind of to be aware of it. And I say be aware of it because if we have the awareness, we then also know, and we can be safe with the reassurance that everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So emotions do not last forever unless we propagate them. So the power, going back to your question there, Kate, power of conversation and shared experiences is the magical formula. If we can talk in a community like what we create within DCC in our online training or our in-person training, carers have a shared experience, and sometimes people don't know that, and they feel so alone, which adds to the guilt sometimes. And if we know you're not alone,
I think one of the things we hear quite a lot is about carers. When we talk about carers taking time for themselves and doing activities for themselves, they feel guilty about giving. Well, sometimes it's the pressure that, well, actually I don't have time to do things for myself, and the other thing is if that they do, then they then feel guilty. And we've had a couple of comments. So Elaine has touched on the fact that sometimes it feels overwhelming, but it seems like you must keep going And Helen equally has said about that sharing with other people has been really beneficial. And I think that sometimes, almost like giving carers permission, or giving yourself, if you're a carer, permission to do things and to have time for yourself and to not feel guilty about it when you do it. So that's certainly something we hear a lot of.
Time and time again, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, it's easy for me and for us to have this conversation about getting out in nature. Yeah, that's brilliant. You know, that's I'm encouraging that, and we're talking about all the benefits of that. And we started to talk about how in nature we engage with our senses. We talked about the sight, our vision, our hearing, our sense of touch. All of these can be engaged in nature in the obvious ways. And I know we talk about this in some of our online training. So let's imagine, you know, you're going to go make a drink and boil the kettle. You've got 5 minutes.
Yeah.
What can you do in that 5 minutes? And this is where I usually talk about my daughter's rabbits, because they just make me laugh.
We're all fascinated by your daughter's rabbits.
If I think about whenever I see my rabbits, because they've obviously been with me too long now, my daughter's rabbits, that they just make me laugh. So if I'm boiling a kettle and I can think about that, then I'm going to smile. If I think about bird song when I'm out walking, if I think about that can make me smile. So all of our senses. If you're out and about, or if you've got a cat, or if you've got a dog, you know, petting the animals, and that's such a, you know, that contact. We remember these things again, as I said, real or imagined, we get benefits from it. So if we can remember whilst we're stood making a drink, something with our senses that makes us smile. For me, like the sense of taste or smell, mint is a very positive memory for me from in childhood, kind of picking mint and making mint sauce. So the smell and taste of mint is something which makes me smile.
Yeah.
So it's yes, it's very common to feel guilty, to feel overwhelmed. And it's finding our way to create space between the awareness so we can make informed choices rather than let that emotion make choices for us. So conversation and small practices, because again, sometimes we think solutions have to be big and grand, but in fact, the smallest thing can have the most powerful change.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And we certainly discuss that in some, like you say, in our online training, but that's, it's like we talk about recharging batteries, don't we, like on a mobile phone, and that, you know, sometimes it's great if you can plug in your battery and let it run for, you know, 30 minutes to an hour, but there are other times when actually you just get your battery plugged in just for a couple of minutes, just to give it a bit of a boost. And so some of the activities you mentioned, the breathing even, or the just spending a couple of times being mindful about what you're doing, or popping out into your garden, and just having a couple of minutes is enough to just give you a little boost.
Absolutely. You know, like exactly with that analogy, we talk about just grab a bar of energy wherever you can. It doesn't have to be the full recharge. So the 5 minutes at the kettle, perhaps, you know, if you're lucky enough to have an outdoor space and you're just hanging up the washing or bringing the washing in, wherever that is, if you've got the opportunity to put a bird feeder out, wherever that may be, then it's just those glimpses of nature and our interaction with them can be so joyous. So yeah, having a conversation with a friend. And today, you know, we're making use of technology so much more that sometimes it doesn't have to be, let's go to an in-person meeting, let's meet somewhere. It could be online. If we have the ability to get online, then again, there's another dynamic that we can utilize and embrace to help us feel connected, to help us share our experience with others who are having a similar or same experience too.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant. Thank you, Angie. And like I said, we'd certainly be interested to hear from anybody else if they, so even after this session's finished today, if you've got any examples of things that you do to improve your well-being, you want to share them with us, which we could discuss with you at a later date, or just share with other carers, then please do get in contact. I think we've probably covered most areas, Andrew, unless there's anything else you want to.
So I think the only other thing
any
I'd
other
say,
tips?
Well, I guess we've shared a lot about how how to engage with nature, how to commit maybe small things to lift our mood. And I think it's
Yeah.
also, that rest is important as well, and how
Oh, rest. Yeah, yeah.
so at the end of the day, when we know that we're going to sleep is important, it helps us. So if we're coming to the end of the day, it's great to create a routine where we're disconnecting from maybe TV, from blue light, from electronic devices, to just give us that period of break before rest. That's an ideal situation. It's not always possible, but it's an invitation to try that and experiment. We recognize that we're all individuals and we'll all have our own routines. So
Yeah.
everything we're talking about here is in our awareness and our experiences. And we also acknowledge that, you out there now will have your experiences. So, and again, the invitation is to share that here now. And hopefully, we can have this quick interaction with the few minutes we've got left now, or, we can utilize what you share with others too.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So we're going to wind up now, Andrew, but so thank you very much for sharing. And as Andrew said, there's lots of information about wellbeing on our virtual care. There's other videos that are much longer and much more information. And we do some online learning sessions around carers' wellbeing, and we actually have one next Tuesday afternoon. So have a look on our website for that if you want to sign up for that. And these lunch and listen sessions are continuing. We've got a whole program of them coming up. Our next one actually is on the 1st of September. So we've got a little break just to enjoy the last couple of summer Thursdays. And then the 1st of September, we have a session about Let's Talk About Grief. And that is going to be led by Dr. Gemma Fitzgerald, a psychologist who works with us. So it'll be lovely to see you at that and to see you at any other events. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. And we hope that we've shared some information that's been helpful. And do get in touch. We want to hear from you. And also, if there's anything else we can do to support you, then let us know on the email or through this sort of forum. So thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.